What if I told you that hidden at the bottom of this popular vacation destination lie deadly, super salty lakes that pickle any creature that wanders into them? Or that beneath those sunny beaches rests the exact crash site of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs? From underwater Grand Canyons to a massive current that acts as rocket fuel for monster hurricanes. Welcome to the Gulf of Mexico. It's a massive body of water often overshadowed by the major oceans, yet it is an absolute powerhouse of natural extremes in human history. Here are 15 incredible geography facts you never knew about the Gulf of Mexico. First, let's get our bearings. It's easy to view the Gulf of Mexico as just a small extension of the Atlantic Ocean, but geographically speaking, it's a behemoth. Covering roughly 600,000 square miles, it's officially classified as the 9th largest body of water on the planet. To put that into perspective, it holds about 660 quadrillion gallons of water, roughly equivalent to 1.5 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. Bounded by the southern coast of the United States and the eastern coast of Mexico, this basin is a geological fortress of extremes. We start in the deep, dark places. Deep beneath the sunlit surface lies a bizarre and deadly phenomenon: brine pools. These dense, hypersaline lakes exist on the ocean floor, trapped in craters and completely separated from the seawater above them. One of the most infamous is the aptly named Jacuzzi of Despair. Because the water in this pool is 4 to 5 times saltier than the surrounding ocean, it is incredibly dense and highly toxic. Any unsuspecting sea creature that wanders into this underwater lake is instantly sent into toxic shock and essentially pickled in the brine. However, life finds a way. The shores of these lakes are lined with specialized extremophiles, including giant tube worms and unique mussels that thrive off the methane and hydrogen sulfide seeping from the toxic depths. That isn't the only extreme environment down there. If you travel roughly 200 miles off the Texas coast, the bottom abruptly drops out into a massive abyssal plain. This is the Sigsbee Deep, often referred to as the Grand Canyon of the Gulf of Mexico. While the average depth of the Gulf is around 5,300 feet, the Sigsbee Deep plunges down to an estimated 14,383 feet. It's a dark, freezing, and high-pressure environment that sits in stark contrast to the warm, shallow, and heavily trafficked coastal waters we see at the surface. But the real geological headline might be what's buried just beneath the shallow seafloor. The Chicxulub crater, located just off the Yucatan Peninsula, is the scar left by the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs 66 million years ago. Nearly 100 miles wide, this impact structure is buried under thousands of feet of limestone sediment. It is the ground zero of one of the most significant extinction events in Earth's history. But the Gulf isn't just a static bowl of water. It's dominated by a dynamic heat engine known as the loop current. This powerful stream of warm Caribbean water flows north through the Yucatan Channel, loops around the Gulf, and exits through the Florida Straits to join the Gulf Stream, carrying tropical heat all the way to Western Europe. Locally, it's a notorious troublemaker. Because it consists of incredibly deep, warm water, it acts as high-octane rocket fuel for hurricanes. When a storm tracks over the loop current, the immense heat energy can cause rapid intensification, turning a minor hurricane into a catastrophic Category 4 or 5 monster overnight. This process is also influenced by the sheer size of the basin, which allows storms to build immense fetch, creating towering wind waves that hammer the coastline. Yet, the loop current also brings life. Its circulation creates dynamic eddies that spin off and help distribute nutrients. However, the most devastating nutrient event happens every summer in the northern Gulf. This is the dead zone, a massive patch of hypoxic or extremely low oxygen water, directly tied to the Mississippi River Basin, which drains roughly 40% of the continental United States. Spring rains wash millions of pounds of nitrogen and phosphorus from agricultural fertilizers into the river. Dumped into the Gulf, these nutrients trigger explosive algae blooms. When the algae die and sink, The decomposition consumes nearly all the oxygen. Marine life that can't swim away suffocates. At its worst, this underwater wasteland can stretch over 8,000 square miles, roughly the size of New Jersey. But the Gulf isn't just a victim of modern agriculture. It is a massive repository of the past. The seafloor itself is a giant cemetery. The Gulf's basin is so deep and still in parts that it creates anoxic conditions perfect for preserving organic material, making the northern Gulf a massive oil and gas reservoir. But there's more to the coast than oil. Much of the western Gulf is home to immense submerged forests. Thousands of years ago, during the last ice age, sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, exposing the continental shelf. When the ice melted, the Gulf's shoreline advanced rapidly, drowning forests of cypress and pine that are now preserved under sediment, creating a prehistoric sunken landscape just off the modern coast. The extreme environments continue just off the coast. The Gulf is home to unique coral gardens, but perhaps the most famous are the flower garden banks. Located over 100 miles off the Texas and Louisiana coasts, these are the northernmost coral reefs in the continental United States. They are protected from the Mississippi's sediment by their distance and are anchored on top of ancient salt domes that rise from the seafloor, providing a stable platform for the colorful corals and the massive whale sharks that visit them. On the human side, the history is just as extreme. The Gulf has been a stage for conflict and power for centuries. The Spanish Empire shipped massive quantities of gold and silver from Mexico through the Gulf of Mexico, but the weather was a ruthless adversary. Hurricanes routinely sank these treasure fleets, scattering countless gold doubloons and silver bars across the sandbanks of the Florida Keys and the shallow waters of the Gulf. Today, the Gulf still hosts a massive fishing industry. It supplies the majority of the United States' shrimp and oysters, but this industry is constantly struggling to survive the effects of the dead zone and harmful algal blooms known as red tide. When red tide blooms, toxins accumulate in shellfish, leading to massive die-offs of fish and serious economic losses. Yet, despite all these threats, the Gulf manages to generate its own surprising stability. The massive influx of fresh water from the Mississippi and other rivers creates a stratification, a separation of fresh and salt water, which acts like a barrier, often preventing the toxic deep water from mixing up to the surface unless stirred by a hurricane. This layer of fresh water also spreads out in a massive plume visible from space, acting as a giant lens that affects regional climate and ocean currents. Beyond its depths, the Gulf of Mexico holds a fascination with the sheer power of its coastline. The beaches of the Gulf are famous for their white quartz sand, but the erosion rates are staggering. In Louisiana, the coast is disappearing at the rate of a football field every hour, a consequence of sea level rise and the leveeing of the Mississippi, which prevents the natural sediment that built the delta from replenishing it. This constant shift has also created massive barrier islands, dynamic, shifting sandbars that protect the mainland from hurricanes but are themselves fragile. This constant interplay of heat and cold is a masterclass in contrast. The Loop Current brings warmth, but the Sigsbee Deep represents one of the coldest, darkest extremes in the region. The sheer volume of water, 600,000 square miles, ensures that even the coldest Arctic air masses that dip south into the United States are quickly warmed as they pass over the Gulf's massive surface area. This warmth adds moisture to the air, which eventually travels north to fuel the nor'easters that pummel the East Coast during winter. And we cannot forget the salt. The Gulf salt deposits don't just stop at the brine pools on the seafloor. Massive salt domes, the very pillars that hold up the flower garden banks, also move and shift, creating structural traps that hold the majority of the region's oil reserves. These geological formations are a testament to the powerful forces that have shaped this sea for millions of years. Finally, the Gulf of Mexico is a corridor for the incredible migrations of sea turtles, whales, and the largest migration of all, the annual movement of the Texas brown tide and the vast schools of baitfish that draw big game fishermen from around the world. It's a body of water that is simultaneously the site of our most powerful modern industry, the scene of ancient catastrophes, and the source of life for an entire ecosystem that spans from the deep abyss to the sunny shores.